bit or wasn't too. Concrete solutions or something like that. That sounds. Little box culvert for us, he did. I don't know who saw the name. Maybe it was. No, she said it was. It's kind of late. You mad?
All right, welcome everybody. Before we begin our meeting, we will have a prayer led by Councilman Fitzwater, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God.
Welcome, everyone. I will now call to order the Monday, February 21st, 2022 City Council meeting. And this meeting is also available to join virtually and by phone. And those links are on the agenda that you can find at jeffersoncitymo.gov. Mrs. Donaldson, roll call, please.
Fitzwater,
Present.
Hensley,
Present.
Kimna,
Here.
Lester,
Here.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Here.
Spicer,
Present.
Vogt,
Here.
Ward, Wiseman.
Present.
Item 3, I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda with the addition of item 4A of adding Mr. Rod Chappell to join us virtually for Black History Month. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve as amended.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So we will go on to item 4, and we have with us Mr. Rod Chappell joining us virtually, and have asked him to give us an update on what's going on in our community for Black History Month. Welcome, Rod.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I appreciate the invitation. And this is a great way to allow the public, including myself tonight, to participate in the meeting that has so much to do with the lives of Jefferson Cityans. You know, I'm here today to talk about Black History Month a little bit, and I think that there's some good things and some bad things that we can talk about. I think I'll start off with the bad and try to finish on a positive note. I can tell you that there's a lot in Missouri that could have been better. We've got a history that includes things like Dred Scott, decided just right down the street from all of us at this point here in Jefferson City, cases that could have gone a different way. And I think that is as much about hope that we have for tomorrow as it has been about the issues that have led to so much trauma in our past. You know, when we talk about Black History Month, it's not all the great inventions that were created. It's not all the great ideas that were related between different human beings, as much as it is talking about those in the proper context. And so I'll just lay in a couple of minutes very quickly the groundwork for that. You know, most recently we had the travel advisory that in the state of Missouri said that if you're a person of color, Black person in particular, you need to be careful because your rights as a human being, as a citizen of the United States, and indeed this state, may not be respected, that you might not have equal access to some of the things that are necessary in order to participate in common society. That can include everything from travel along the roads to participation in schools, your ability to receive medical care. And indeed, I think that we see a lot of the disparities that are still active in all of those areas, right? Whether it's Jefferson City or some other city. And Jefferson City is better than many other cities, but there's still room for improvement. The idea that people of color get stopped so much more than everybody else. That's not fair, and it's not right. It's not something that ought to be tolerated. But I think that even as we look at some of the reckless monuments or things that have been erected in the past, such as the boulder that was here, and the way forward is kind of painted through that same lens. And so when we talk about some of the places that we've been that we aren't necessarily happy with, and that could have been done a lot better for the betterment of all people, by the way, I think that when we look at steps that this city has taken to go forward, removing that boulder says a lot in terms of welcoming everyone to this community. It's a very open sign that everyone is valued and tolerated. That's good. That's good. And it's that same beacon of hope that had people who had been enslaved swimming from Callaway County in the late 1860s, trying to secure their own freedom and indeed save their lives. Because that's what we're talking about, is making sure that there's a role and room for everybody to participate. In our context now, we think about body cameras, and I know that we've got a public measure that was passed so that we can actually have money to participate in what is modern policing. Everybody deserves that. Our officers deserve it, and so do our citizens. It's the right thing to do. We're encouraged by the work that the city council and the city is doing to ensure that those are coming and coming quickly before tragedies that have affected other communities, such as Sedalia, where there was a traffic stop that resulted in the death of a motorist that is now being featured, I guess, around the world in a short film that's been picked up by lots of folks. Jeff City ought not be that place, especially for lack of a camera. It's one thing for bad things to happen, but when you don't have transparency, there are questions. And so we appreciate that, and I think that that's a real move that we can have going forward. Likewise, we're looking for a new police chief, and we're looking at ways to hire folks within the city, whether they work for the state, the city, or the county. I think that that's very important. There ought to be a representation of everyone's ability to participate in the workforce. People come in all colors and they can do all things. And so making sure that there's an opportunity for that to occur is also very important. We've had an opportunity to talk about some of that past with people like Julie Allen, who wrote A History of Enslaved People in Osage County, when before lots of folks would tell you that there was not that much slavery in Osage County, there wasn't really there at all. It turns out, in fact, it was. I think if we looked at any county, we would see that it is still an issue in Missouri that we need to talk about and figure out a way forward. Likewise, lost Jefferson City. I can't wait to pick up my copy of that book, but if you haven't already seen it, it's a great opportunity to celebrate some of the history of Jefferson City for folks who might not have otherwise have had a voice. When urban renewal came through, it did what urban renewal often does, which is eviscerate communities of poor and Black people. It provided an opportunity for some folks, but changed lives and sometimes generational change, going from property owners to people who don't have property. There's lots of ways that we can think about improving Jefferson City. I would ask that as you consider the ARPA funds, that you take into account the historic context in which color has been a dividing line, and see about using some of those funds to address historical inequities. When we look at Community Park, I think that that is a wonderful statement of how we as a community value everyone in the community. The idea is that parks wouldn't have bathrooms in some sections of town because you're worried about bad behavior. It seems silly if we just say it out loud, but that existed here for a long time. We've gotten past that. We have a community park and it has bathrooms, and it turns out people are doing the same stuff that they always do. It just doesn't matter where. I think that when we look at the link, that is a beautiful, beautiful joining between the city and Lincoln University. Because when you think about not just the historic purpose of Lincoln, but the ability of people to function in this community, that bridge needed to be crossed. And now that it has been, we need to fortify it to make sure that not just the link is going to be there, but figuring different ways between the city and this historic Black institution founded by the soldiers, so that everyone could have access to education and dreams that we all fight so hard for in America. Let's keep that idea as we move forward. And again, I can't say this loud enough or often enough. We have the opportunity to use one-time funding to make historic change. Let's do that. So historic inequities, even in our own community between educational facilities, doesn't go further. At some point, they're going to ask, what happened while you were in charge? What happened on your watch? And it's not just you as elected folks on the city council or being the mayor. It's not just folks who work in public service. It's all of us as citizens that have an obligation to make sure that we as human beings are treated in a fair and appropriate way. There's still a couple of weeks left or about that for us to be able to participate in Black History Month programs, whether you're learning something new or exciting or celebrating something that is extraordinary. I encourage you to join in, whether through the great programming at MU, through local churches who are having some programs that are coming up. Go to the Jefferson City website, which is housed on the same website as the state NAACP, which is www.monnaacp.org, and take advantage of some of those programs. We hate that we can't get together like we would like to due to the pandemic. We're still trying to be as safe as possible, but I think that we as human beings have to connect as much and as important of a way as we can, so that we don't end up repeating the same tragedies of the past. I really appreciate being able to be with you today, and I hope that just a few comments that we've talked about shine a path forward, what we can do as a city, and still respect all of our citizens. I think we build stronger communities by doing that. It may be Black History Month, but if we really say it truthfully, it's all about how we as citizens are going to live together today and every day. And that's what we're all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chappell. We appreciate you joining us. Is there any council questions or comments? Well, we do appreciate the partnership that we've had with you. I know that you also have your NAACP meeting that I believe also started at 6 tonight. So we appreciate you taking some time out to share with us and celebrate with us as well for Black History Month.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And look forward to seeing great things that we're going to do, not only from tonight's meeting, but in the future. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, item 4A, we have a presentation of the Jefferson City Fire Department 180th birthday proclamation. So while Chief Schofield and everyone is coming to the podium, I'm going to share, I will read this proclamation. And it says, whereas in the late evening of November 15th, 1837, fire destroyed the original state capitol building in Jefferson City. And whereas in December of 1841, fire destroyed the governor's house. Also in 1841, fire destroyed much of the prison that had been constructed in 1836. And whereas on January 26, 1842, a meeting was held at the Cole County Courthouse to present 5 resolutions to Jefferson City's mayor and city council that provided the necessary means for organizing a fire company. And whereas when established on January 26, 1842, the Jefferson City Fire Department consisted of 2 fire companies, one east of Madison Street and the other west of Madison Street. And whereas the Jefferson City Fire Department has provided the citizens of Jefferson City with exemplary service for 180 years. And whereas the Jefferson City Fire Department responds to an average of 5,000 emergency calls per year. And whereas the Jefferson City Fire Department could not provide the level of emergency services so critical to those in need without dedicated personnel and the support of our citizens. Whereas our community is safer due to the efforts of the Jefferson City Fire Department. Now, therefore, I, Carrie Turgeon, Mayor of the City of Jefferson, do hereby ask our community to join me February 21st, 2022, in recognizing a year of celebration for the 180th anniversary of the Jefferson City Fire Department in the city of Jefferson. So congratulations on celebrating 180 years. Chief Schofield.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of council, for the opportunity to come talk with you this evening and recognize this very significant milestone for us. We should probably also note that 2022 does represent 180 years since the first formation of those volunteer fire companies, but it also represents 110 years since the establishment of our full-time fire service on October 7th, 1912. And as you noted in your proclamation, Mayor, a lot of that was due to very significant events that occurred in our community. We know there are many lessons to be learned from major fires, and we believe that the study of those disasters is critical for us to know what we can do to prevent them in the future. The Jefferson City Fire Department and the Jefferson City Fire Museum are committed to learn from and preserve all those artifacts and all that history and use it as a platform to share our fire prevention and life safety message to future generations. And on the board, we have the original excerpt from the newspaper back in 1842, January 26th. And it embodies much of what we describe in our current all-hazard mission, which is to serve people, shield property, and save lives. And so with that, I would like to introduce the president of our Fire Museum Board, Captain Steve Holtmeyer, to introduce who's with him.
Well, thanks for having me. I got some of our board members. Randy Cole is an ex-state fire marshal. Mark Bruns is one of my first captains from the fire department. My wife, Lori, is a secretary. Becky Hosey is our treasurer. Anthony Trapani is on B shift as a driver. Chief Schofield on the board. We have a few more board members. Jason Turner's on the board, and we have a few other board members that couldn't make it tonight. But it's a 10-person board, and they do a lot of work, and I appreciate all they do for us. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Are there any questions of council? I know you all have done a lot also for the Fire Museum, and for people who haven't yet had a chance to see it or have a tour, it's really nice that you all have showcased that history. Is there anything that we can do as community members to support that?
Yes. There are all kinds of things, But what our biggest goal is right now is, people have not been to the fire museum. It's a 2-story building. And one of the biggest issues we have is access. So we're actually trying to work on getting an elevator installed. So you can imagine that's a pretty pricey item to take on. So we're looking at that right now and trying to find some resources for that. But that's our next big step forward, because all of our facilities, restrooms, things like that are upstairs. So access is a problem. So we're working on that right now. So if we can get any resources for that, we could sure use them. So.
We'll be sure to spread the word for that. And I know you all, it sounds like, are happy to take donations. I know last year for my birthday, we had a party and the proceeds went to that, and it's coming up again. So
Yeah, we do rent it out. We have 2 weddings there, Christmas party, birthday parties for fundraisers. Can rent the museum out for fundraisers.
I didn't even realize you could have weddings and those kind of parties and events.
Yeah, we've had actually our drivers was married there, and our captain's son is getting married there. So yeah, we've had weddings, we've had Christmas parties every year. We've had several birthday parties, Boy Scout troops come. So yeah, it's been on our website. So yeah, if you have an event that you want, we're more than happy to help with that. So
Great. If people want to do that or donate, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
we have a website and a Facebook page. That's probably the best way. And there's contact information on Facebook and on our website. So I just do that. That's probably the easiest one.
Great. Well, we appreciate what you've done for the Fire Museum. We also appreciate you showcasing the history, and we're thankful to all of the board members who assist with that, and then also to the Jefferson City Fire Department and to all of our firefighters and what they do for us every day in keeping our community safe. I can't imagine what it would be like without them, and kind of taking for granted some of the things you see here and all the years and all the 5,000 plus emergency calls a year that they go on for our community. It really makes a difference. So we appreciate all the hard work and effort. So thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, we'll invite everybody to come forward for a photo, of course, with the proclamation. We'll have council come up too. Right. Thank you. We appreciate all they do. And like I mentioned when I went up there, I'm wearing red for the fire department and also for Heart Month. So there's a lot of good reasons to celebrate. So we certainly do appreciate all the work that our great fire department does. So happy 180th. With that, we're going to lead into what a lot of you are here for tonight, and it's item 5 on the agenda. It is the ARPA funds public comment period, and I will start with Mr. Steve Kroll giving us some lead-off comments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Gonna pull up slides. So we'll be talking very, very brief overview of the American Rescue Plan Act. When government typical, we'll call it ARPA. So tonight we're going to receive public input and suggestions on potential ARPA funding. No funding decisions are anticipated to be made by the City Council tonight. There will be future City Council meetings and workshops to talk about funding priorities, and staff is not going to be making any of their presentations on any funding requests tonight as well. There are other funding opportunities, state funds and county funds as well. And the speakers tonight will be limited to 3 minutes if that's what council prefers, and then also be able to take and accept written information. So go ahead and go to, that's what I just said, next slide. So the anticipated funding for the city is about $7.5 million, and the county will be receiving about $14.8 million. We've already received our first tranche of that funding, about $3.7 million, and the rest of it is expected to be received by May 20th. And council has already allocated about $790,000 for stormwater improvements. Next slide. The funding under what is called the final rule is effective April 1st, 2022. Right now, we're operating under what's called the interim rule. But as I said, the final rule, which is what we'll be talking about, is effective April 1st. There are really 4 general areas. I'm not going to read through all of those, but generally, the first area is to talk about lost revenue in the public sector, and there's some different ways that that gets calculated. I'm not going to go into those tonight. Next slide. And public health and economic response is the second area. The third area is premium pay for eligible employees. And the fourth area is for water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. Under the interim rule, sewer, we at a staff level at least interpreted that to mean stormwater, storm sewer. That's been clarified that it does include storm water under the final rule. So next slide. So there is a speaker sign-up sheet. I think, Emily, do you still have that? Okay, so people that are interested in speaking can certainly sign up. And as I said, if that's what council's still intent is to limit the speakers to about 3 minutes. And then, as you indicated previously, we'll accept written comments, and we've already received some of those. We received some earlier today as well. So I didn't have anything else unless there are any questions.
Questions for Mr. Kroll? And before we take the public comment, if we have everyone signed up, but certainly at the end, if there's anyone who did not sign up, I'll make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak that wants to tonight. And also want to thank our Councilman Hensley for leading the Finance Committee and all the members of council. I know this is a topic that has been discussed at previous Finance Committee meetings and other venues, other meetings, but we realize the importance of public comment, even though public comment is allowable at those meetings as well. This just brings it to the council for even more discussion. So we appreciate the public being here and giving a chance to give us some input. So with that, we'll start with the first person on our list is President John Mosley from Lincoln University. So get to formally congratulate you on your new position. So congratulations and welcome. Thank you for being here tonight.
Hello in 3 minutes, but I'll be fast. Listen, thank you to the council for giving us an opportunity to come in and share what we believe to be an exciting project for Lincoln University. This summer, we were asked by the governor to submit a transformational project for our campus, for each of the campuses in the state. And for us, we chose a Health Sciences and Crisis Center. The Health Sciences Center portion of it is pretty simple. It will allow us to double the capacity of our nursing majors from about 120 to 140 to 240 to 280. Next, it would house a space for our chemistry, physics, and biology classes, as well as labs for those areas which are in desperate need at our institution. The Crisis Center portion is a little bit interesting to me. It's a Security Sciences Institute that would allow for degree add-ons and certificate programs to partner with our criminal justice degrees, provide certification in law enforcement, cybersecurity, emergency management, geospatial information services, as well as criminal justice. And so it would allow us to fully implement the LPN to RPN transition program, as well as the creation of the MSN, the Masters of Science in Nursing program as well. It's a $40 million project. We were awarded $20 million in the governor's proposed budget for this year. That's working its way through the House and Senate. We feel very good about that. We've received a lot of positive response from that. We were also asked by the governor directly to go back to our local officials in the city and the county to seek their support. of a project like this. And so that's why I stand before you tonight. We have identified $4 million of our $20 million match. I am requesting $500,000 from the city to go toward that project. We are also making a request of the county as well and have received positive feedback to this point. I haven't had the opportunity to go before their council to share. They do have a council set up to award their ARPA money, but we do plan to do the same thing for them. I'm gonna give up my last 55 seconds for any questions that you may have to answer those instead of just standing here and tell you how awesome I think this project is, and that I think an investment in this project won't be a one-year deal. We'll drive by this facility for the rest of our lives and see that we've made a difference for our community.
Thank you, President Mosley. Any questions from council? Okay, we do appreciate you being here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Fitzwater.
Assuming all goes through, how quickly can the project get underway?
We're still in fundraising mode. We're expecting to try to get this $20 million match, and so we're going through that. The state requires us to have a dollar for dollar so we can draw down as we receive, and so we are in the process of hiring an architect as we speak to begin to design this facility. It will be off of Highway 50 across from the tennis courts up on the hill where Elif Hall currently is located. We would like to construct a new facility there and potentially tie it into the existing facility that's there now with Elif to allow us to do some renovations to Elif while also constructing what we believe will be a facility that just gives a wow factor to This is Lincoln University as soon as you get off the highway.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I'll excuse you for wearing red because you said it was Heart Month and you were supporting the firefighters, but other than that, go Blue Tigers.
Go Blue Tigers for sure. Thank you, President Mosley. And next we have Stephanie Johnson from the Special Learning Center. While Stephanie's coming up, I'll mention something President Mosley touched on is the county as well. And I know that it was discussed at the Finance Committee meeting that there are some collaboration opportunities with the county too. So welcome, Stephanie. And she also has Mr. Steve Hauser. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Turgeon and representatives of our city council. I want to thank you for allowing our board vice president, Steve Hauser, and I to come and talk to you. We're here tonight representing the young children in our community with disabilities that were gravely impacted by the COVID pandemic. We know a lot of children, fortunately, did not get the most severe consequences of COVID. The exception of that are very medically fragile children in our community. So many of our families really isolated themselves for an extensive period of time in fear of their child's life. And as a consequence, we're playing catch up at the Special Learning Center. We are serving a record number of children that are really coming out of the woodwork, needing so many services from us, disabilities, autism, learning disabilities, neurological problems. And we are really working hard to meet those needs, but we're behind the 8 ball really because we have more need than we have the resources to meet them. We're so fortunate that our board and our foundation are very much willing to embark on a capital campaign as well as invest money from our foundation into a new facility to double our footprint, allow us to meet those needs. And we're coming to you today to ask for some help to fund some of those critical mental health public programs that we are doing for so many children. Over 800 kids now coming to the center.
I'll finish her little minute because as you can tell, she's the expert. Again, I thank you for your time. As representing the, I think she already stated it, but we are looking into some facilities because our growth rate has been over 13% over the last 2 years. Can't serve the people that are on the waiting list right now. Been a Special Learning Center or have the chance to, please. Stephanie would give it to her. It's mind changing. It's heart changing. It's one of those times that you look at these children, they could be walking for the first time, but mentally, health issues. They have to deal with going into the school. They have to deal with friends, society, and those are with these funds are going to help with setting our staff to continue education and have the resources best that Special Learning Center has always provided, but as we're getting bigger to provide those services moving forward.
Yes. And we just want to thank you for considering agencies like ours that are really the heart and soul of Jefferson City. We've been working very hard in so many different arenas trying to better our community and better our citizens. And we're just here hoping that you will give consideration to some of our most vulnerable children in our community. And those are children with special needs. Do you have any questions for us?
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you
all.
very
Yeah.
much. You're welcome. Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Logan Gratz for the Jefferson City Chamber of Commerce. Welcome.
Good evening. As the mayor said, I'm here on behalf of the Jefferson City Chamber of Commerce as their 2022 Government Relations Chair. The Jefferson City Chamber of Commerce supports efforts by local government and educational institutions to invest their ARPA funding in truly transformational projects. A couple of these examples have already been mentioned, but would be major building project also on the drawing board for State Technical College and Lincoln University. We also support local government and higher education leveraging their resources to make local priorities come to a reality. If most of the state and federal dollars will come with a local match requirement, it's important that local government has the budget and the bonding capacity to provide the local match. That's going to require our community leaders to be both creative and collaborative. Chamber also has a bias towards the investment of ARPA funds as opposed to the consumption of those funds. We stand ready to work hand in hand with the city and generate the business community support behind your final project list. Thank you for the opportunity on this. Thank you for your leadership on this once in a generation opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Gratz. Any questions? Thank you. We also have Mr. Bob Gilbert from the Jefferson City Chamber of Commerce. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. You all have a tough job in front of you to decide where to go with these funds, but we appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm actually here as a resident of the 5th Ward. I'm a Senior Vice President or COO of Bartlett and West Incorporated, as well as the Transportation Chair of the Chamber. So I'm trying to put all three hats on tonight and make one three-minute comment, I guess, for all those representations that I have. But I want to thank you for this opportunity. I want to maybe point out first, I guess, one of the things that Mr. Cole had pointed out earlier. There have been some updates to the kind of eligibility of some of the funds so that if you're under the $10 million threshold, it can kind of go a little bit broader. You might not be surprised. I'm here to talk about infrastructure as being a place to invest, but let me just share with you some stats. So looking at what the ARPA funds represent, if you look at all the money across the entire United States, every city that gets money comes out of a pot of about $65 billion. And in that $1.9 trillion bill from last March, that's only 3%. So if we go back to the CARES funds from 2020 as well and add those funds in, we're only talking about a 1.5% sliver that funds all of these cities across the U.S. 150 million in Kansas City and 26 million in Columbia and 7.5 here. It's just amazing the amount of money, but it's only 1.5% of the sliver of the pie that's gone out. So I wanted to point that out because, you know, this set of funds for ARPA is the only one that's eligible to be spending on infrastructure. As you consider where all these needs are, and of course, you're going to hear a lot of great opportunities tonight. There's many great causes, but I want to remind you that this is the one that can go towards infrastructure. And I'm not here to promote a certain project or anything like that tonight. It's just infrastructure is a great place to invest, being my main point. To be sure, I think we all know this, the $7.5 million that comes to Jefferson City as part of these major spending packages certainly are a loan more than they're a grant. They're going to be paid by our future generations at the federal level of taxes. So I urge you to spend the money in investments that last. If you look at what is eligible, again, if infrastructure is the choice, 50 years, 75 years, maybe a 100-year investment where this money could go. I'm not sure there's a wiser decision than something that's going to last 75 years. In addition, there are monumental spending bills that just passed in November. That is the bipartisan infrastructure law. $110 billion is identified just for roads and bridges alone. I wanted to make the point tonight that 40% of that $110 billion is going to be competitive, meaning you have to have proposals, you have to have plans, you have to have thoughts, and matching money to get that kind of grant. So 40% of the new money is competitive. Wanted to bring that up tonight as well as a great way to reserve or make the investment with ARPA funds that could leverage into 10, 20 times that amount of money. Thank you for my 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have next Mrs. Diane Gillespie from the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And I believe everybody at their seat has some information on behalf of the CVB. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much for inviting us to come today. I did put some information on your place settings today. Want to mention that, we got hit in 19 from the tornado that impacted our industry, the tourism industry. And then you roll into 20 and you think, good grief, now what? So we had lost revenue from the hotels and from restaurants and also people coming into our community. And then we go into 21. And our best judgment is by the prison tours. We had estimated we'd have about 20,000. We actually hit almost 26,000 people. So people want to get out and they want to come and visit. We want them to come to Jefferson City. So what we're asking for is replacement of some of the revenue that we have lost. And we would ask for $175,000. And that money would go toward marketing and also event sponsorship. And what I mean by that is that when we're out talking to groups to come to Jefferson City, we want to help do some sponsors. And that would allow us to bring some more events into our community that's going to put heads in beds, people in restaurants, and buying our retail here in the community. So we are an investment that you would be making for our future to continue giving revenue back to the city. Any questions? Comments?
Any questions? And just looking at this, some of the numbers are pretty staggering what these events bring to our community.
Right. So the sporting events, we were able to bring sporting events into our community because of our relationship with the Parks Department, the Jefferson City School District. Trinity worked with us this week on a tournament that was able to come back this year. So that's 6.6 million economic impact into our community from just sporting events alone. We are estimating we're going to hit about 7 million this year, but we got a couple other events that are on the edge that we might be able to pull in, so it could be even higher.
Almost forget that how much the pandemic did affect the tourism industry. So thank you for working extra hard to bring it back.
We're hoping to be back this year. When we first started this back in 20, we had some industry calls, and the comment was made, our industry is not going to be back up and going until 23. And we were all like, what? No way. But to be honest with you, that's probably where we're going to be before it's back up and going. But we'll be okay.
Questions for Mrs. Gillespie? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
And next we have Susan Cook-Williams from River City Habitat. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you all for letting me have the chance to speak. My name is Susan Cook-Williams, and I am the Executive Director from River City Habitat for Humanity. I started this job in 2016, and in 6 years, I've only seen the need for safe, affordable housing increase. We had a housing crisis before the tornado hit in 2019, but that tornado kind of ripped off the Band-Aid, and we all kind of realized what housing was like in our town and around the nation. And then just as we were ramping up to help start rebuilding some of those homes, the pandemic hit. And so we still managed to complete 7 homes in 2020, which was amazing with the support of the community. But last year we only did 3, and probably this year we'll only do 3 as well. It has impacted our ability to get volunteers to come out to the job site. And then you count lumber prices, supply issues, and those kind of things. And we are just behind in what we want to do. And as you probably know, the housing market's a little crazy right now. My parents are trying to move to Jeff City, and every time they look at a house, it has 4 offers on it before they can even say, hey, we'd like to look at this one, right? So the housing market is really kind of taking out middle income, low income people from having a chance at the American dream and letting them have a safe place to call home. Just this week, I held 2 informational classes for people that were interested in becoming a Habitat homeowner. And we had over 70 people that signed up to come apply. And we are only going to be able to do 4 houses. So that's 4 families. What happens to those other 66? We're also trying to revitalize our repair program because I get phone calls at least 2 to 3 times a week where people who are in their homes, own their homes, not Habitat homeowners, but regular homeowners that have major repairs that they need done on their home and they can't afford it. Whether that's the roof having problems, a hot water heater that breaks down, maybe they need a wheelchair ramp because somebody now has a wheelchair. And those are things that we do with our repair program, but we haven't been able to do that since COVID because we don't have the volunteers or the income. So I urge all of you to consider investing in housing with some of this money. This is big money that probably none of us will ever see again in our lifetime at this amount. Other towns are investing in 3D printing to do homes. If you haven't seen that, it is absolutely amazing. There's two habitats that I know of that have done that. And it would be really neat to think of our town as the capital city as having the first 3D printed home. Smiles, okay. So no matter what, I encourage you guys to invest in housing because when people have a safe place to call home, they are allowed to then be productive citizens.
Nailed it. Thank you, Susan. Any questions for Mrs. Cook Williams? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Ward.
I mean, I know the economy, the building market is very, it's hard to tell what cost, but give us an estimate. What cost that Habitat constructs.
Sure. So typically, I would say between 100 to 120,000 to build a home right now with volunteer labor and donations.
And you mentioned a 3D printer. Do you have a dollar figure on one of those?
I don't. We're having somebody come speak at our next building committee meeting next month from one of the habitats that did that. So I would have more information after that.
Councilman Spencer.
Do you have a dollar figure?
So to vamp back up to where we were, maybe catch up, I would say about $500,000 to get us back to where we could catch back up since we've only been able to do 3 houses the last couple of years.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Greg White for the Salvation Army. And there's some other representatives here along with him, and there is something at your seat also from Salvation Army. Welcome.
Amazingly like this. Greg White, one of the vice chair of the Salvation Army Advisory Board. And just to jump straight into it, what we're looking towards doing is not changing the footprint of the Center of Hope Salvation Army Shelter, but rather we're looking at doing some internal rearrangements, some repair work, particularly electrical and plumbing, but taking our social services and pantry unit and moving it down to a lower level that has its own outside access as well as its own parking. That frees up space on the main level to add something that we haven't had, which are family bedrooms. In essence, a room for the family to be in, up to 5 people per room, and it would be 4 rooms. Traditionally, we've had no family rooms set aside, so it impacts particularly the women's side normally. What we're looking at having, if we do the project, is 16 male beds, 18 female beds, 4 rooms yielding 20 people for families, or a total occupancy of 54, which is significantly higher than the, what is it now, 31. In addition to that, we still have room for our hot and cold cots. The only closure that I know of in the history of the shelter was just regarding the cots in part of this year and part of the COVID issues. Most of the time, the rest of the time, we've been open through floods, 93, 95, through the tornado, through COVID. Shelter's maintained operation. It's been honestly a pleasure to deal with it. Several important things to us, and that's simply that we can focus on the shelter for families. You know, it's so hard to maintain family integrity, and we're an emergency shelter. And I agree with the people, with Mark who's going to talk transformational housing, with Habitat, with all the housing issues in Jeff City. They're there. The other side of it is when the emergency occurs, they come to us. and we've got to be able to house them. If the economy goes farther down, then we're going to have more people. And having served my tenure as sheriff, I can tell you that if they're not, if we're not sheltering people, people are going to do what they can to survive, and that means the police department's going to interact with them. There's going to be more calls for the fire department, assisting medical, and certainly we don't want to house people in jail that don't need to be there. We'd rather have shelter space for them. We're asking for $3 to $3.5 million to do the full project. We don't expect you all to do all of that. We do believe in a joint operation. I love it when the city and county work well together. And certainly we can talk from the law enforcement side, but I do love that. The county has more money in their COVID pot than you all do. Most of the clientele of the Salvation Army are either transient or Jeff City residents that are using it. So it seems to us that joint effort could produce the best results for us. If you look at your page, and I don't know where I'm at on time with the no clock up there. If you look at your handout, it's also got 2 drawings on it, and those were provided by Architects Alliance, and it shows what we plan to do with the structure. And if you have any questions pertaining to that, you can ask me or gentleman behind me, and there's several here as well. Also, our contact information is on the back page, and feel free to use our cell numbers anytime, day or night. And as a side note, red and black will always wave over JC. JC, for those of us that are JC graduates.
That's right.
Questions?
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions of council? Councilman Spencer?
So I'll ask the same question. What kind of dollars are you, obviously you said you don't expect to have the full.
Well, 3 to 3.5 is our target. And I'll be honest with you, that's a guesstimate. We have a concept paper that's approved by St. Louis Salvation Army, but until we have more plans done, we can't do that. We can't give you a total figure on it. And specific to you all, this is where I would hope you'd work really good with the county and convince those 3 guys up there that they need to cough up more money.
Thank you. Any other questions of council? Okay. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you. And next we have Ann Blomke Warren. Welcome.
Hi, I am not here representing an organization. I am just a resident of the First Ward, and I am kind of building on what Rod Chappell said, although not dreaming particularly big. I'm asking for some infrastructure for the lower income schools on the east side, particularly the ones I drive through or I visit daily, which are Thorpe, Gordon, and East. The sidewalks in the surrounding neighborhoods are in desperate need of repair, or they need sidewalks that don't exist, particularly Thorpe, Gordon, which is where my daughter attends. The sidewalks in that neighborhood along Jackson are the old narrow ones with the telephone poles in the center, so the kids are having to walk around them, typically into the street, where cars are speeding past at pickup time every day. And I watch kids just cars just speeding past them all the time. It's terrifying. And then I love what's happened with sidewalks on High Street by East School. But, you know, if you turn onto Riverside or any of the side streets, there's always kids walking down those. And those are sidewalks that are cracked and, you know, they're old, they're in disrepair, and really could just use some repair. And this would be the perfect opportunity to do some of that in areas where, you know, they might not get the attention that some of the other areas have gotten in the past. I know particularly the Jackson Street, Thorpe Gordon, that's a narrow street. It's a one-way street. That's exactly where the tornado went. And so there's a lot of construction. That's where Susan's Habitat for Humanity houses were. And so, you know, there's just a lot going on that street, and adding a bunch of kids and no good sidewalks is just a recipe for a horrible situation. So I implore you to just come and sit there at 2:45 when the kids get out of school someday and just watch, because it is terrifying. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Next, we have Kyle Berenson from United Capital City. Welcome.
Thank you all for your time. Mayor Turgeon and members of the City Council. My name is Kyle Berenson. I'm a volunteer member of the board for United Capital City. Formally, we're making a request, consideration of $500,000 of ARPA funding and representation from the city of Jefferson for tax credits from the Missouri Development Finance Board for a 4 to 6 field soccer complex to be built in Jeff City at the old rock quarry behind Special Olympics off Christie Drive. We feel this will turn that area of town into a valuable sports destination. It's very easy access, numerous hotels and restaurants within a 5 to 7 mile radius. This project will be an economic engine for our city. As you read through the packets that we're leaving you, this project has great momentum from local, regional, and even state support, ranging from the Jefferson City Visitor and Convention Bureau, the Regional Planning Commission, and support from Cole County. The total budget for our project for 4 fields is approximately $8.5 million. For a total of 6 fields, it'd be $10.5 million. We currently have 2 different options there. We currently have $3 million of the budget raised. This complex would literally provide hundreds of jobs, ranging from referees to administrative and program professionals, as well as 100% of the construction of this project to be with vendors from our local area. This complex has both statewide and local interest and support. It will allow Jefferson City to become a destination for soccer across the Midwest, as well as many other sports that will be held here. This complex will encompass as many as 9 surrounding states, and in some cases up to 15 states. Most importantly, this complex will provide a direct economic boost for our hometown, referenced in the number 2 of the press release. That has been a long time coming and even more evident in the wake of the pandemic. With your support, we will also make requests to the state, as we understand this project to fulfill the expectations of the U.S. Department of Treasury, but does require local match funding. Based on calculations derived from Destinations International Event Impact Calculator, utilized by the Jefferson City Convention and Visitors Bureau, the annual projected economic impact for this new complex will result in $11.6 million per year. Last year, as I'm sure you're aware, the comprehensive total for all combined sports economic impact for Jefferson City in 2021 was only $6.5 million. This project alone will double that, and combined with the previous number, triple our economy and taxable revenue. There's no doubt that this investment will garner a great return for our town. As a great return of investment, we simply ask that you just make the investment. We have provided supporting documentations that will illustrate my comments and our purpose and the mission. Sincerely ask for your consideration and financial support moving forward. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Berenson? Councilman Hensley?
Thank you. Thanks, Kyle. So what's the ask or the ask range?
Yeah, $500,000 is what we're asking. We are meeting with Cole County, obviously, in their part too, so.
Thanks. And is that in here somewhere?
Yes, it is in there.
All right, thanks.
Yep,
I'll find
very
it.
good.
Thanks a lot.
Councilman Fitzwater?
Again, who would be the owner of the project?
United Capital City. It's a non-for-profit is who's going to who will own it and run it.
Local, not-for-profit?
Yes, a local non-for-profit.
Set up for this project, or is it already in existence?
It is already in existence.
What other kind of projects are they working on?
No other projects currently that they're
So
working.
set up basically.
Yes,
to
you could say that. It
manage
was
this
already set
project.
up. The 501c3 was already set up, and that's what we're running.
There've been discussions back and forth with Special Olympics. I know it's
Yes.
close to that complex.
Yes, we've been working with Special Olympics for almost a year now. And yes, we've been multiple meetings, and obviously with their new director coming in, Larry Linscomb, that will continue to go on. But yes, there has been many discussions with them.
And One last question.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned 4 and 6 soccer fields. To
Yep.
get some of the tournaments you're looking at, I assume 6 is preferable.
Yes, you're exactly correct. We currently, like I said, we have $3 million raised. It's a $10 million, $10.5 million project for 6 fields. But yes, we currently have landed a President Cup and States Cups, which are huge tournaments. They do bring people in from 15 states. We can give you a budget and we can send that to you all. The numbers they bring in are unbelievable. It's 4 weeks in May and 4 in October. I have to confirm them. But next year they are coming here. We're using Lincoln University, Elias Catholic, and Jefferson City to for next year. Our plan is to start building this time next year and be open to play soccer in fall. So yes, 4 fields is what we have now. We have the land for 4 fields. We have to purchase land next to it, an additional 10 acres to do the 6 fields. And that's where we're at.
And the fundraising you've done so far, is it cash fundraising, in-kind contributions, a combination?
Combination. Yes, combination. I'll be up front with you. 2 million in kind, I would call, and 1 million cash. That's all we've went to so far. You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then we also have Mr. Tom Chapman from UCC, and I think maybe you're part of the same presentation along with Mr. Joe Lopez. So thank you all for being part of that. Thank you. And then we have Laura Teschke. Welcome.
Before, so please. I just wanted to say, great ideas, plans. Mr. Gilbert was right on. And we really should go for infrastructure due to the technical feasibility and cost effectiveness of the grant, that monies. The monies are designed to increase resilience and public safety, reduce injuries, loss of life, and reducing damage and destruction to property of official services, facilities, and infrastructure from natural hazards. So that's just my 2 cents. Citizen, I'm not anybody. I live on the West End, and the roads here are horrendous. Questions?
Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Thanks. And next we have Mr. Jeffrey Holzum from, I'm sorry. Oh, Jeffrey. Yes, thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. No business connections. I've lived here most of my life, but care much about the city, its residents, and our welfare. I have some suggestions I think will save us money, improve our health, and be instrumental in attracting new businesses. Got several things I want to talk about. First off, just kind of a personal story here. My wife and I walk near Morrow Heights School, take our dog pretty much every day. And on the streets, you can really smell the diesel, partially burned gasoline from cars and trucks and buses. Our kids are breathing that every day. Our parents are breathing that every day. Our teachers are breathing that every day. We could do a great deal to improve that by just cleaning up our air a bit. And obviously this project is available because of the ARPA funding allows health and economic development to happen. So I've got several suggestions. The first is to look at buses. I know in the past we've looked at city buses to make them electric. They wouldn't run all day on a charge, but now there's new technology coming out. There also are quick chargers. You can get about an hour's worth of use out of 6 minutes of charge from a bus. You can put the charging stations either at a central station, power them with solar, put them along the route someplace. So it's really becoming much more feasible to do that kind of thing. So that's my first suggestion. The second one would be city fleet of vehicles. There's an incredible number of electric and hybrid vehicles that are available now from Ford, Chevrolet, and many other manufacturers. It's pretty easy to switch over, save fuel, charge them with solar power, save energy. Also make the city greener by being more attractive to businesses by doing that. Another thing is to be able to put solar panels on city buildings. We could make, again, energy savings, make them more attractive to businesses coming in as a green project. That would be another good thing to do. Excuse me, one more thing I was going to tell you about. Oh, the other thing, I think there's an agenda item this evening for paratransit buses. I propose that that be amended to do electric buses or plug-in hybrid buses versus fuel buses. That's, I know it's on the discussion this evening, but I'd like to suggest it be available to modify that provision instead of going that route. I submitted a draft of this, a pretty rough draft, but I'd be glad to provide more details if anybody would like to hear them or do further research on any of these topics. I attempted to talk to city staff, but I tried to call on right before the weekend, and we've got a long holiday, so I know people have been busy with the ice and snow. So thank you very much. Any questions from anybody?
Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Holzem. Thank you. Next, Mr. Mark Kiekefer with the Transformational Housing. Welcome.
I'm Mark Kiekefer of Transformational Housing, and we did submit a written document. I'm not going to reread that. I'll just highlight a few things. Our mission is to provide rental units for lower income people. This past weekend, we had an open house to commemorate the completion of a renovation at 203 Cherry. By mid-March, 4 low-income families who would not have the opportunity for an apartment will be moving in. We have 2 more projects immediately before us, 101 Jackson Street. We're working with the Housing Authority and the city to acquire that property. That project will take about $550,000 for the renovation using volunteer labor. We're requesting the consideration of part of that, part of the ARPA funds to go for part of that. There's another property we have acquired at 1112 East McCarty Street. It's 3 apartments. We hope to expand it to 5. Over the upcoming years, we hope to do another 35 units to get to the point of 50 units. My point is simply that it's one piece of the housing puzzle. Habitat, Salvation Army, the goal that the niche that we would serve would be helping families develop the financial skills and resources to be able to be sustainable renters in our community, especially through coaching, through coordination with the faith community, through volunteer labor. We believe we can help one piece of the housing puzzle, and we'd request some funds for these upcoming projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you again. And that concludes our list. Is there anyone here that did not get a chance to sign up that wanted to speak? Welcome, Mr. Reisig.
Thank you. I'm Frank Reisig, representing myself, Madam Mayor, City Council, fellow citizens. It'd be nice if we could take this entire amount and put it into an investment product, which will give us a monthly income into perpetuity. Now, I don't know if the federal government will go for this, but perhaps the legal department can do something creative to convince them. And besides a monthly payout into perpetuity, it could be structured to be growing as well as paying out. And we would essentially be creating an endowment, putting a little bit more into it each year, and we would have government by endowment eventually. Couple of $1 million here, a couple of $1 million there. Pretty soon you're talking real money, and we'd have a big endowment, and we'd be creating history with a new method of funding government. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Anyone else here that, or online, is there anyone tuned in that did not get a chance to speak that wanted to? Okay. Seeing none, we appreciate everybody being here tonight, and the public input is always important in everything we do with the city. So we certainly do appreciate that. And the next item is item 6, and we have no public hearings tonight. Item 7, oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Spencer.
Just for clarification for our public, this is not going to be the only opportunity for them to have public input on this, but we're going to continually have discussions. So
thank you. And thank you for that further clarification. And yes, this is just an input session. So decisions not being made this evening, and certainly we'll take all these items into account, and we'll continue our future discussions. So, thank you. Any other questions of council on this topic or items to mention? Okay. Item 7, appointments by the mayor, and I will turn it over to Mrs. Strope.
Thank you.
So a number of appointments for this evening. The first one is to the Board of Adjustment is Michael Eichner. To the Convention and Visitors Bureau is Brian Roten. To the Electrical Exam and Review Board is Fred Gladback. To the Library Board of Directors is Steve Nelson. To the Plumbing Exam and Review Board is Zachary Schulte. To the Police Personnel Board is Bill Burton and Stephanie Scruggs. To the Public Transit Advisory Committee is Sarah Eichels and Ian Shadrick. And to the Transportation and Traffic Commission is Jeff Collins. And I would like to just quickly point out the appointment of Bill Burton to the Police Personnel Board does require 2/3 majority approval, since this would be a third and final term.
Thank you. Any questions or a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 8, presentations from staff, consultants, and invited guests. We have none. Item 9, announcements from council, mayor, and staff. Our committees are listed at jeffersoncitymo.gov. You can find a meeting calendar and agendas there. We'll go through the administration committee. We do have Councilwoman Wiseman on, but I believe Councilwoman Ward might make that report. Or Councilwoman Wiseman,
Yes.
either one. Okay,
I'll make the
Councilwoman
report.
Ward, thank you.
The only thing we have to report is that our next meeting is March the 2nd at 7:30 a.m. across the hall in the conference room. Currently, there are no agenda items at this time, so just keep an eye on the website, the city website, to see if that meeting gets canceled or rescheduled.
Thank you for that report. Item 2, finance, Councilman Hensley.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank everyone for sitting through our February Finance Committee meeting this evening. It was a lot of fun. So we're going to go ahead and cancel the normally scheduled Finance Committee meeting that would have occurred later this week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3, public safety, Councilman Schreiber.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, we will not be having a public safety meeting this Thursday. So we'll be rescheduling for next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And item 4, public works, Councilman Fitzwater.
We have met in February. Our next meeting is scheduled for March the 10th, 7:30. Regular time frame.
Okay, thank you. And I'll give a few announcements, like I mentioned earlier, wearing red for Heart Month. So be sure to keep that in mind as we think of things we can do to stay healthy. And then also was glad to have a report on Black History Month, and want to thank our crews for the snow removal, and also give them a thank you in advance for this week if we end up getting that again. So appreciate everybody staying out of their way, keeping things clear on the streets, trying not to park on the streets so that things can be cleared, and remembering to keep clear of the fire hydrants while you're at it, and also to shovel around them if you can. So thanks again for all the hard work of all of our city departments and what they do as we keep seeming to get these week after week. So with that, are there any other council announcements? And I will have now turn it over to item B, 2018 Building Code Review Process Update, Mr. Sanders.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to let everybody know that the ad hoc steering committee that was placed by the council a little bit more than a year ago, and its subcommittees are wrapping up their work. There's 3 meetings on 3 different specialties later this week, 23rd, 24th, 25th, which are available, open to the public. But more importantly, March 1st, next week, at 3:30, approximately after the hopefully last steering committee meeting by the ad hoc committee, we'll be having an open house. So if people want to come and discuss what's in the proposed changes to the building codes, we'd have staff there. Our inspectors and everybody would be able to provide them with information. That information is, I think most of it's available on our website right now, but we'll ask IT to put a link on the homepage and get a calendar event so it's easily accessible. And then once the ad hoc steering committee is finished with their work, we will bring this forward to the Public Works and Planning Committee, and then ultimately to the council. So I just want to invite people to this public participation opportunity.
What was the date at that again?
March 1st at 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm not sure if it'd be in this room or across the hall at this time. We're going to get our calendar invite and everything kind of set up, hopefully on the website tomorrow.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thank you. Item 11, presentations from the gallery. We don't have anyone signed up. Didn't miss anyone, did I? Okay. And item 12, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Councilman Lester.
Yes, I just want to make a correction to the minutes of the 7th. It says that I made a motion on the resolution 2021-26, and I believe Councilman Spencer made that motion.
So do we have a motion to approve with that change? Or I guess you made that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. And any opposed? Motion passes, and thanks for bringing that to our attention. And item 13, bills introduced 2021-86.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Concrete Solution LLC in the amount of $856,489.74 for the Grant Street Sidewalk and Roadway project.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. As Clerk indicated, sidewalk project, it would go along Grant Street from McCarty over to Riverside Park. This had been talked about, especially in light of the additional events going on at the park, obviously. And it would enhance the entrance to the park, sidewalk along the west side. There have been some questions about a couple things. One, why not Greenway instead? Things of that nature, or maybe even expanding the road for bike lanes or some of those type things. And the answer is simply the right-of-way isn't available. The houses are very close to the street. And then on the other side, there's a bluff. And then we also have to deal with an existing bridge we're trying to cross. So those items constrain us to the project we have here today. We'll improve the entrance to McCarty Street as well. Be happy to answer any questions. This project be funded through city county funds and the sales tax, and then also a contribution from Parks Department.
Thank you. Any questions? Or Councilman?
Sure, I don't know.
Oh.
I know it's yours, Bill. I don't want to.
Sure. Councilman Fitzwater?
Well, I think there was discussion that if everybody is in support, that we waive the rules and go ahead and act on this item tonight. So I would make that a recommendation.
Okay, we've had a request to suspend the rules. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we will take up 2021-86.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Concrete Solution LLC in the amount of $856,489.74 for the Grant Street Sidewalk and Roadway project.
Any further council discussion? Councilman Fitzwater?
I was just going to make a real quick comment. Councilman Lester and I were at a chamber event last week. I think Lynn made a presentation from Venue Works on the amphitheater, and we mentioned the fact that the city was close to making this change upgrade on Grant Street. There was a lot of excitement at the group. Obviously, there continues to be a lot of excitement about that amphitheater, so I think this will be very positive for our city. So I appreciate all the work that's gone into it.
Great. Thank you. Any other discussion or comments or deliberation? Roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Schreiber. Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Vote.
Aye.
Ward. Aye. Wiseman.
Aye.
Bill passes. Item 14, bills pending, 2021-80.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a grant agreement with Modot for public transit operating assistance.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. Is this for the, let's see, I think it's still kind of the transit operator. I had the same question. Yeah, you kind of throw me a little bit. Sorry about that. Yeah, this project, this grant would buy 2 Handy Wheels buses for our transit division. 100% grant money, a little over $123,000. These are off-state contract bid.
Any questions or discussion? Councilman Spencer?
So to address the gentleman's question with public input, that is really not an option since this is grant money and process is so far along. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that
Yeah,
there's a
to,
connection point there that he understands what the result was. So
Yeah, certainly, just, and it's a bigger topic if the city were to, transition to these different type bus like that, solar powered or some other hybrid or something. It is tied up in our central maintenance facility and how we would work on these buses and store them. Although we're working on a project that is grant funded to redo a master plan to get us prepared for that in the future. So that may be something in the future that does come along. There aren't a lot of buses available. There's only one company right now making those buses. So we anticipate in the future, that may come to fruition though.
Thank you. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Hensley,
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer,
Aye.
Vogt,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Wiseman,
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2021-81.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a grant agreement with Modot for public transit as operating assistance.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. Clerk indicated this would be a grant to help our transit division. It's an operating assistance grant for a little more than $11,000 and be used for the general operation of transit.
Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer,
Aye.
Vogt,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Wiseman,
Aye.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2021-82.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, adding an ordinance to address financial responsibility of removal of disabled aircraft.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. Basically, this would just codify our practices at the airport that if we had a disabled aircraft on the airfield, if it weren't moved in a reasonable amount of time by the owner, the city could do that and then seek reimbursement.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer,
Aye.
Vogt,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Wiseman,
Aye.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2021-83.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 19 Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Schedule J, Parking Prohibited by modifications on Riviera Street and Oscar Drive, and Schedule M, Parking Prohibited at certain times by the addition of part of Mulberry Street.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. This is three different topics that went through the Transportation and Traffic Commission. Clerk indicated the streets, but Riviera, basically switching sides of streets where parking is located, be more near some apartments in the area. Oscar Drive, site distance issue that's brought to our attention. This would help that issue. And then on Mulberry Street, some turning movements of commercial vehicles in the area. This would help facilitate some of those turns. All recommended by Transportation and Traffic and recommend approval.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer,
Aye.
Vogt,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Wiseman,
Aye.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2021-84.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 19 Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Schedule I, J, O, R, and S by modifications to parking in the 100 block of Bolivar Street and area in front of 700 West Main Street.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. Another transportation and traffic request. It was basically for a four-way stop in the area just due to site distance issues with delivery trucks parking at a restaurant bar in that area. This worked through Transportation and Traffic Commission for a little bit and ended up with, instead of recommending stop signs or anything of that nature, just modifying how the parking lays out and giving the delivery vehicles a actual place to park on the side street. Actually eked out about, I believe, 4 more spaces in the area, so for public parking. So that was a good thing as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer,
Aye.
Vogt,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Wiseman,
Aye.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber.
Bill passes. 2021-85.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri vacating and discontinuing a sanitary sewer easement on the property addressed as 2937 Hillview Drive in the City of Jefferson, Missouri.
Mr. Marash.
Thank you. Just vacating the sewer easement that's no longer needed on this property. The line was moved some time ago.
Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Spicer,
Aye.
Vote,
Aye.
Ward. Aye. Wiseman,
Aye.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber, Spencer.
Aye.
Bill passes. Item 15, nothing on the informal, no resolutions. Item 17, presentations from the gallery on other topics. We don't have anyone signed up, but did we miss anyone? Okay. Item 18, any council and staff discussion of presentation topics. Item 19, any new business. Item 20, approve the February 7th, 2022 closed session minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Aye.
Vote, Ward,
Aye.
Wiseman,
Aye.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item, did I get a motion and second on that? Did, thank you. Okay. Item A, 20A, go into closed session pursuant to section 610.021 of the revised statute of Missouri. The chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss the following. Item I, attorney-client privilege communications, section 610.0211. Item 2, real estate, section 610.0212. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman,
Aye.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer,
Aye.
Vote.
Aye.
Motion passes. So we will go into closed session in 5 minutes in this room. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thanks.